Ladies and gentlemen, people of the audience, week 5 is here.
Let's go.
Crazy that it's already week 5. I
Yeah.
can't comprehend that.
Hey, man. We're getting into the thick of things now.
I saw someone the other day say we're already a quarter of the way through the season. I couldn't believe them. It's just nuts.
And
It makes me
Um,
sad, honestly.
yeah,
Want to last
yeah.
forever, but
But anyways, as always, welcome back to your favorite podcast, hopefully, the Weekly Gridiron. We are here for episode 5 of season 4. And always, we are your hosts, Adam.
Dante.
Luke,
And welcome to Justin Fields' twin jersey day. As you can see, my Fields jersey.
not not three. I just have a Rocky shirt on.
Hey, Rocky's good too.
Those two flexing their Justin Fields jerseys. I do love it.
My
Yes,
boy.
sir. You gotta. He's playing well. So,
Yes, sir.
all right.
And Dante called it. What did you say? Your bold prediction was
Three
Yeah.
total
three touchdowns
touchdowns.
Field.
And I said, I said three total touchdowns for Fields. And I also said Pat Fryermuth would get his first, and he did. So
Spot on.
the only
That'll
thing I got wrong is the Steelers winning that game, but we'll talk about that.
what happens. Anyways, let's get into things. Starting off with our fantasy football leaders of week number 4. Again, as always, the top 10 scorers of the week. Hopefully, this shows you who you need to trade for to help you win your league. Starting off things at number 10, we have Alvin Kamara with 24.9 points against the Atlanta Falcons. Then at number 9, one of, I think, the most underrated receivers in the NFL, we have Jaden Reed with 27.7 points against the Vikings. On to number 8, with his perfect game on Sunday Night Football, 27, or not Sunday, Monday Night Football. Sorry, Lions fans. 27.18 points for Jared Goff. On to number 7, speaking of the Packers, Jordan Love with 28.16 points. Despite throwing 3 picks, still had a great game. A bit of a mixed bag there, if you ask me. But on to number 6, we have Baker Mayfield with 28.88 points against the Eagles. And then on to our top 5 with 29.5 points this week. Our number 5 player, DeAndre Swift, the running back of the Bears against the Rams. On to number 4, we will like this one, 31.98 points. The first Steeler to make an appearance on this year's list. Quarterback Justin Fields against the Colts in a loss, unfortunately, which Dante said he'd get to.
Yeah.
On to our top 3, 33.1 points for Texans wide receiver Nico Collins against the Jaguars. Number 2, with 33.6 points, the running back of the Seattle Seahawks, almost said the Mariners, Kenneth Walker III, and our top scorer of the week with 35.9 points in his crazy performance on Sunday Night Football, had an 88-yard touchdown, I think, to open the game.
87 yards.
87. Saw some vintage stuff from this guy, Derrick Henry, running back of the Ravens. And this was the second appearance of the year for Henry, Nico Collins, Baker Mayfield, Jaden Reed, and Alvin Kamara. So if you don't have these guys on your fantasy team, these guys have appeared 2 times in 4 weeks. Maybe you should make a trade for them.
So, so was Fields the top quarterback?
Fields was the top quarterback in fantasy football this week.
Let's go.
Crazy.
Fun stuff.
Really great stuff. But now we are on to the next week. Week 4 is in the rear view mirror. We are on to week number 5, starting with Thursday night football. At the time you are watching this video, this game will probably be on tonight, or maybe it will have already happened. But at the moment we are talking, this game is tomorrow night. It is the Buccaneers and the Falcons, an NFC South division rival. Bucks are 3-1, currently the leaders of the division. Falcons 2-2, right behind. Boys, who are we going with?
I know who I'm going with.
As
Start.
do Luke.
Adam D.
Or
I think I do, but I'll let you guys go.
I'm just wondering if we all agree.
I mean, go
Because
first.
I'm going Baker in the Bucks. I'm going Baker in the Bucks. They showed a great game last week again. Uh, I couldn't have been more right about the fact that they would embarrass the Eagles and really show that the Eagles have some issues that aren't just going to be solved by trying to fix small things within the breaks between games. They stomped them, and I think it says a lot about the Eagles, but also says a lot about the Buccaneers that they aren't just going to be a beat up on bad teams kind of team. And so the Falcons, who took the Chiefs to a tough game, I forget either that was last week or the week before. Falcons, who I think will gradually get better, are going to lose this game against the Bucs.
Dante?
I agree. I'm also taking the Bucks here. Yeah, you can't discredit the impressive performance the Bucks had against the Eagles, as Luke was talking about. And however, the Bucks have been the slightly inconsistent team, getting beat pretty handedly by the Broncos the week prior. But I like what I've seen from Tampa Bay so far. I also like what I've seen from Atlanta. I mean, after week one, where they look sloppy offensively, they've really started to pick it up, but I don't think they're quite there yet. Um, but I think the Bucks had much more, explosiveness offensively, and yeah, I'm gonna take them.
Luke, I believe you asked me if we would all agree, and we do all agree. I'm going to take the Buccaneers as well. Like you guys have said, just have played better football so far. Baker Mayfield has looked amazing. Looks like last year wasn't a fluke for him. Love to see it. Panthers legend. So yeah, I'm going to go Tampa in this one. I think they get a win on the road.
Cool.
So on to our first international game of the 2024 season. We're headed off to
Oh,
London
is it
Sunday
really?
morning at 9:30 Eastern Time. Jets and Vikings. Aaron Rodgers taking on the undefeated Sam Darnold.
Yeah, it's so disappointing. I would have enjoyed a Sam Darnold in MetLife revenge game.
True.
Yeah.
True. That would have been fun.
So based off that, I can start off if you guys don't mind.
Sure.
Um, Especially after the way they didn't show up against Denver last week. I don't think the Jets have a shot in this game. The Vikings just look like they're completely out of their league, out of the Jets league at least. The Jets have a lot of soul searching to do. Aaron Rodgers had an ugly game against the Broncos, threw the ball over 40 times, barely completed 50%. If I'm not mistaken, didn't find the end zone. It is boiling over between him and Robert Saleh. I could see a change being made there, maybe halfway through the year if things don't improve. I'm saying all this after they ran through the Patriots, but doing that is one thing. Not being able to do that to the Broncos is another thing. And when you come up against a team like the Vikings, excuse me, who are just playing so out of their minds, I'm gonna keep rolling with the ball. I'm gonna keep trusting a team like that until they show me otherwise. And I don't think this is a matchup where the Vikings run into the brick wall. So give me the Vikings. Sam Darnold revenge game.
Want me to go
I've
at
made
Yeah,
you
sure. Go
speechless, I
ahead.
see.
Go
it?
ahead.
Um, yeah, I think this is a no-brainer, Minnesota. Um, New York lost to a last week. They lost to a good defense in the Broncos and a pretty, I wouldn't say bad quarterback, pretty underwhelming quarterback in Bo Nix. I don't know how I would even think to pick the Jets whenever they're playing a top two defense in the league and an even better offense. Um, and keep in mind the Jets lost at home too. Weather conditions were bad, but still, man, if you, the Jets came in with such high expectations on the year, you should take care of the Broncos if you're playing in a blizzard, But Minnesota's hot right now. They're playing like the best team in football, especially offensively. And then their defense is just complementing them so well. So yeah, Minnesota for sure. Kevin O'Connell, coach of the year. As of right now, I'd say so.
That's a good
Yeah,
take.
I definitely agree with that take. I'm going Minnesota as well. They have surprised me this year in a good way, not in a bad way at all. But yeah, after what I saw last week from the Jets, I was very surprised to see how uncompetitive of a game it was. Not specifically from the Jets, but overall, because you know how excited I was about that game. Losing to a quarterback who had negative passing yards in the first half has not been talked about enough, which I just find insane. But yeah, if they can't beat Bo Nix and the Broncos, Vikings should easily get a win here. So
And that's kind of crazy. Like coming into this year, if you told me we were going to clean sweep the Vikings over the Jets, I'd I'd be like, I don't know, but here we
here
are.
we are. We made it.
Well, on their offense, and then I'll let us get to this game. Um, Brees Hall is not a game changer. I knew this. People didn't realize this. If holes don't open up for him, he's not going to find the holes that the elite running backs can find out of nothing. Garrett Wilson, I'm sorry, Adam. He's just not a game changer right now. If you can't get him the ball, he has trouble finding space. And behind that, Aaron Rodgers is forcing his team to rely on Allen Lazard, who has been good, but because he's been fed targets like nobody's business. So the offense is just totally uninspiring. And with a defensive minded head coach who already is way out of his depth, I don't see it getting fixed anytime soon.
I agree with that. Wilson's been very underwhelming, as unfortunate as it is to admit.
I love him. I love watching him play, but he needs to pick it up.
Yeah. All
All
right, go
right,
for it, Adam.
on to this game. Panthers headed to Chicago to take on the Bears. It's the worst trade of all time, possibly. Bull here. I know it's not the worst trade of all time, but a lot of people are starting to say maybe. Andy Dalton looked solid again last week. Made one mistake through an interception. We lost, I believe, by 14, but I honestly liked what I saw from the team. Obviously, losing is not fun, but keeping it competitive and staying in the game had me on the edge of my seat. Had me fine with the result overall. I mean, if we're gonna lose, I would rather lose in competitive fashion than get blown out like we did the first 2 weeks of the season. So I'm okay with that overall. As far as this game goes, for the Bears, they've looked a lot better recently. I think their offense looked vastly improved last game. Caleb Williams starting to clean up his mistakes a little bit. As much as I don't want to, I'm going to take the Bears in this one, but I think it's going to be another one of the another. Geez, I can't speak today. Sorry, guys. Another one of those games. I think it will be that Carolina keeps things competitive, keeps me on the edge of my seat, and maybe wins. But I'm going to say Chicago takes this one.
I could go.
Yeah, go ahead.
Before looking at this game, I really wanted to pick Carolina, but um, I just, I really don't. I just couldn't. I don't know. I just think the Bears are overall a better team, and even though the Panthers have shown me that they could really keep up with teams offensively with not Sam Darnold, Andy Dalton at quarterback, and I've been very impressed with the Panthers. But I think the safer pick is to go with the Bears here. So yeah, that's my reasoning, I guess.
I would trust me. I would not blame you if you pick Chicago at all.
Yeah.
All right, well, Adam didn't, Dante couldn't. I will. I'll pick Carolina.
Really?
Last year, I was right about them. I picked them to lose and lose and lose until I picked them against the Texans. And looking back on it, that was before the Texans emerged. But they shouldn't have won that game. And I'm not so sure that they're a better team than the Bears. But the Bears have holes. Things aren't great right now. DeAndre Swift was fed a lot last game, but he's not a premier running back in this league. Keenan Allen is getting up there in age and coming off some injuries. Rome Odunze hasn't done anything to separate himself from certainly the other rookie receivers in the league right now, if you look around. And DJ Moore, they are not using him like he's supposed to be used. Last year, he caught over, I think it was 6 passes that were beyond 20 yards. Or no, that's just how many Caleb Williams has attempted. He's attempted 6 passes beyond 20 yards, which I read is good for like second or third worst in the league. They're using DJ Moore as over the top inside the down markers guy, and that is not his strength. So I just don't trust their offense enough to keep up with what Andy Dalton has been able to do. And I know they lost that last game, but the Panthers stayed in it. And that was a Bengals team who had finally figured it out. Jamar Chase got in the end zone. T. Higgins got some fantasy points. Joe Burrow actually looks like that top 10 quarterback he's supposed to be. It was a Bengals team that finally figured it out. And they don't have the best defense ever, but I'm not convinced that Chicago does either. So I'm going to go out on a limb for Carolina. And I'm going to say that they outpace Chicago. They're just going to be able to put more points on the board, especially when I haven't been overly impressed with Caleb Williams. I think I could be wrong and this could be his breakout game, but I wouldn't bet on it. I think they still have some stuff to figure out first.
So it's your upside of the week, Luke.
Yeah, you can mark it down as my upset of the week.
Cool. Hey, I mean, last year when you picked us over Houston, I changed my course. I'm not going to do that this time, but I respect you for picking us. Hopefully, you're right.
It would be one thing if we're waiting for that sort of breakout where you look around, Jaden Daniels has Cliff Kingsbury, Justin Fields to an extent has Arthur Smith, other people, they have offensive minds, but nothing really moves me inside the Bears organization. Their head coach could get fired pretty easily if this team doesn't make the playoffs or doesn't end up with a winning record. And by the looks of it, they're definitely going to be in danger of that because nobody expected Minnesota to be this good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I was going to say this is a game I'm perfectly okay with getting wrong. So if you predict it right, I'll be happy for you.
I was going to say, imagine if I picked the Panthers and Adam was the only one to pick against them. That'd be pretty wild.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be crazy. I probably would have changed my pick though.
Well, I'll be the only one to pick for them.
There we go.
Okay.
This is not always. I don't mean to cut you off. How long has it been since we've done a 1, 2, 3 and everyone picks?
Well, yeah,
and especially for these two teams. I mean,
that's exactly what I'm saying. Commanders and Browns.
Sure, I guess we could do that, but I was gonna go a little more depth, so that's fine.
You could feel free, Adam. Really, I think we all just revealed our.
Well, yeah, I think we know who I'm picking, but I think we know who we're picking. But all I was gonna say is, this is my lock of the week. I'm going Commanders over Browns, and I can't believe I'm saying that now. If you had told me back in like July, I would have had Commanders over Browns as my lock of the week in week 5. I would have thought you were nuts, but here we are. Browns just looked abysmal. Jaden Daniels has looked fantastic.
Yeah, Commanders.
I was going to say, I just wish, we were off this summer while everybody was saying the Colts were going to be the team to take the Texans lead. Nobody was looking, maybe some people were, credit to them. I was certainly not looking to Washington. I didn't love the head coach hire, defensive guy, but that's what the Texans did. I liked Cliff Kingsbury, but he had just moved off from Arizona, which had Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins 2 or 3 years ago, which would have been more prime DeAndre Hopkins. I was like, well, he's not a perfect guy, and he just spent some time in college. I didn't see it, and I was wrong. And they traded Jahan Dotson. I was like, what are they doing? But they're a better team than the Eagles. Honestly, they're looking like the best team in that division. So I guess that's my explanation. I'll make this my lock of the week too. The Browns have been a disaster. I'm just counting down the days until they swallow their wallets and they have to start Jameis Winston.
Yeah.
Yours, Dante?
Commanders for sure. Yeah. You really think I picked the Browns? Like, come on.
Well, no, but I was saying, if you want to lay into them even more than we did, feel free. Or we can just not even give them the time of day because they don't deserve it.
Let's not be that mean. But I mean, even though I've been much meaner, but I'm just saying, Deshaun Watson has been god awful. Jane Daniels has been spectacular. Especially what was the game? What was the primetime game they had? Who were they playing? I forget. But Bengals, yes.
Yeah.
And Jane Daniels was throwing 40-yard deep balls, maybe even longer.
That last touchdown to Terry McLaurin, like 40 yards through the air, back corner of the end zone. Oh man, I'm gonna sound like Chris Collinsworth, like glazing this touchdown, but spectacular is the word.
Yeah, and he has a great arm, and he has I don't want to say underrated legs, but the kid can move. And I was going to say Deshaun Watson hasn't made a throw like that, like the one we were talking about in like 3+ years. So um, Cleveland's defense could be good this game. Myles Garrett, I don't know if he's playing, might still be banged up. Um, but either way, Washington, 100%. It's a no-brainer. Not my
Yeah.
lock, but uh, I'm fairly confident with this pick.
I was gonna say if you don't go Washington, what are you doing?
Yeah, yeah.
But anyway, Luke, I'll let you have the floor.
I'm going to jump straight into it. I'm picking the Patriots over the Dolphins. Confidently. We've been bad, uh, very, very largely because of our revolving door of an offensive line. But when you talk about bad, if you looked it up in the definition, you get the Miami Dolphins right now. They just got killed by the 0-3 Titans, by Mason Rudolph, actually. Who Will Levis went down in the first or second drive, second because he threw a touchdown, because he threw an interception to a defensive lineman who caught it with his thighs. That's neither here nor there. The Dolphins look abysmal. Um, I watched a video, someone analyzing the situation over the weekend, and they had a good point, or not even over the weekend, yesterday, probably. It isn't necessarily so much as, well, now we are seeing just how valuable Tua is to this team. But I think rather we're seeing how we're seeing some holes in the Mike McDaniel experience. He is a tier below the Sean McVays, the Cliff Kingsburys, the Andy Reeds, those offensive minds. And I don't think that people have been talking about this enough. I think that he skates by based off of the fact that he's a cool young guy who vaped on the sideline once. So he gets a pass because he's cool and because he scored 70 points on the Broncos once. He's not the offensive mind people think he is. He is a good head coach, but clearly, Tyler Huntley, Snoop Huntley isn't an awful backup at all. He can move. He made a Pro Bowl, whether he deserved that or not. Um, Even Mike White, whoever's behind him. Well, I think it was who was the guy that was behind him? The trash Tim Boyle, I think, was behind him.
Tim Boyle. Yep.
Anyways, who isn't worth a thing. But Mike McDaniel clearly cannot adapt his offense to a backup, especially on the fly like this. They've only had Snoop Huntley for 2 weeks, but you look at what Sean McVay did with Baker Mayfield, what Kevin O'Connell is doing with Sam Darnold, what other elite offensive-minded head coaches have been able to do with backups on the fly. Mike McDaniel is a tier below. This is a complete disaster, a lost season for Miami, because we don't know, with all due respect, what Tua is going to look like when he does come back, and he is coming back. But I'm just ripping into them. But I told you last week not to start Tyreek Hill in fantasy. I hope you listened to me. I told you the week before not to start Jalen Waddle in fantasy. I hope you listened to me. I actually told you to start Devon Achane. I hope you completely ignored me. So I would stay as far away from picking or trusting in the Dolphins as I could right now. The Patriots, I'll just spend another 30 seconds. I don't want this to go over too long, but a little bit of an interesting case right now. David Andrews today opted in for surgery, which is going to end his season. Ramondre Stevenson is getting benched, most likely, because he has had 4 fumbles in 4 games and lost 2 of them. Antonio Gibson has been a bright spot. He has actually looked like our best free agency signing. I wasn't expecting that at all. I had doubted it. I'm on the record saying I would have rather brought Ezekiel Elliott back, but I'm glad we didn't. Antonio Gibson, who is going to probably be the running back one of this game, has been good. The issue continues to be getting the ball to pass catchers. I'm not sure that's going to be great this week either, because the Miami defense is one thing that hasn't been awful. It was really a field goal fest Monday night against the Titans. So if we can get the ball out to some pass catchers, especially Jalen Polk in space, Hunter Henry in space, I'd like to see Javon Baker see the field. I still don't understand that situation at all. I think the Patriots can win this game, and I think we can win it comfortably.
Cool.
I hope I'm right.
I know who I'm going with if you're not ready, Dante.
I mean, I'm ready, but you could go.
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna take the Patriots too. I mean, Brissett maybe struggled a little bit so far this season, but I think he's better than anything the Dolphins have going for them at quarterback right now. And man, the Patriots have the opportunity to do the funniest thing ever, put in Drake May and just maybe make this a straight blowout, to be honest, because Miami's look like they haven't been able to get anything going with any QB they put in, not named Tua, which surprises me because a guy named Ryan Tannehill is literally sitting out there unsigned. I mean, a guy who's been with that franchise and knows the ins and outs, but I mean, yeah, I really don't need to go into it that much. I think the Patriots will they'll win this game. So
Clean sweep.
Uh,
Okay.
I wasn't sure. I would have understood a Dolphins pick completely because
No,
as low as they have dropped in performance, it's evening out. I'll put it that way. But I think that we have a slightly higher ceiling right now,
yeah.
or a
Yeah.
lower floor. I'll put it that way.
I was going to call this my upset of the week, but I don't know. I think I have another one down the
You
road.
still can. I'm not gonna. I'll give you that. But if you want to save it, go ahead.
I think I'm going to save it, but anyway.
All right.
all right, Colts and Jaguars, NFC South divisional rival.
Is this one in the States?
Did I say NFC? AFC, obviously. Yes, yeah. There's only
I know.
one
I know
game
how much
in London.
the Jaguars love London, so I figured if those games are starting, we're bound to get one sooner or later.
It's only it's in Jacksonville.
Okay.
I actually know my pick for this one. I'm sure you all do, but
I think we all probably do.
I'll go first if you guys don't want to go first.
Yeah.
This is my upset of the week.
Hmm.
I think the Jaguars are gonna get their first win this week, believe it or not. Um, they came close last week. Texans had to get a touchdown, I think, with under a minute left to win. The Jaguars have come close, and in the past, they have played very well against Indianapolis. And for some reason, I just think this is the week they get their first win. If I'm wrong, I will not be shocked whatsoever, but just a gut feeling.
I actually don't hate that, but if I can just jump in, I am going to go Indianapolis. I will continue to believe that one of these weeks they will really just explode on offense. I'm not sure when it's coming. It might not be this game, but Shane Steichen and Anthony Richardson is too talented to be so uncertain on the field with where he goes with the ball, with how he gets himself in trouble. And he looked good last year. I don't understand, I guess coming off the injury, but normally somebody doesn't look so good in their rookie year. I guess I should know Mac Jones, but and then I'm not comparing the two, but I think Anthony Richardson will turn it around. And Jonathan Taylor, they looked good against Pittsburgh, who was supposed to be a tough defense, who they shut down their run. They 3 touchdowns, Justin Fields. That's great. But the Colts looked really good. And the Colts won the last game against a team who had been rolling. And this is not a team who is rolling. Jacksonville is as bad as they come right now. I called that one. I put them at fourth in division when we talked about that in the summer. Doug Peterson is counting his days. They could get this win, and it could add a bit to his lifespan. But I think when it rains, it pours. And I really shouldn't make that pun for a team in Florida with the hurricane. But wow, I really just walked into a really bad something I probably shouldn't have said.
Right,
But
like you have a lot on your plate.
yeah, you're right. So prayers up to everybody affected by the hurricane. But I'm going Colts this game.
When it rains, it pours. I'll agree. I'll go Colts. And I've kind of a hot take. Joe Flacco should be the starter of this team.
Is he actually? Oh my gosh, I completely forgot about that. Is he going to continue to start? Do we
I
know?
mean, if Richardson is healthy, I assume he plays.
I would assume so. I completely forgot about that.
But either way, if he's healthy, I don't think he should. I think Flacco is the best quarterback on their roster. And yeah, I don't know. I'm going Colts here for sure, though. Yeah, they stopped. I mean, they offensively performed really well against a good Steeler defense, which I was shocked by and disappointed by. But yeah, Indy looked good last week. Michael Pittman looked really good. Josh Downs had a couple of big catches, and Taylor, though he didn't break 100 yards, he still was efficient enough. And yeah, Jacksonville 0-4. I don't think this is the game they're going to get back on track. So yeah, Colts for sure.
I'm not just going to let something slide by. You think that Joe Flacco, all things considered, is the best quarterback on their roster?
Yeah. Yes. Most efficient? Yes. Makes
I
less mistakes? Yes.
Yeah,
Puts them in the best position to win? Totally. Yeah.
I think the ceiling is much, much higher with Anthony Richardson, but
Totally.
you have the
Totally.
benefit of the fact that he hasn't been great.
Ceiling is definitely higher. But if you look at some of the mistakes Richardson makes, dude, Flacco ain't making those.
But it's Flacco making some of the throws that Richardson makes.
Maybe not, but I don't think he needs to.
And Flacco can't leave the pocket. I don't know. We can move on, but that's an interesting
I
conversation.
think it's closer than people think. I'll just say
I'll
that.
give you that much, but I think that sooner or later there's going to be a pretty wide gap.
I mean, Richardson, definitely higher ceiling. Definitely can turn into a much better quarterback. But right now, in this moment, Flacco, dude. I'm telling you, look what he did with the Browns.
Yeah, I know.
11 to 11 and
I would give you the fact that he's the best quarterback on the Browns roster if he
that's
was
a
still on the
no-brainer,
Browns roster.
of course. But I
All
don't
right.
know. So far, anyway, we'll move on.
Ooh,
Okay.
this is a good game.
Game of the week right here, boys. I'm thinking so.
Depends.
This is a good
Depends
one.
how teams show up.
Who do I go with here?
I know
James,
who I'm picking.
go, Luke. Go.
Dante, last week at the last minute, you persuaded me to go with the Ravens, and that was a good decision because I've been on record saying the Bills were a very good football team. They still are. But I was on record saying that Josh Allen will easily cruise to an MVP. And then he ran into the MVP. And now I don't think there's any way that anybody can say that Josh Allen is the best quarterback in football. Um, I would still say Lamar is better based off of the last game alone. And so it worries me about the Bills. The Texans, they've stumbled a little bit, but they held in last week and they held on and they got an impressive late game score, like Adam was saying. They still have just so many people to throw the ball to. And Joe Mixon is coming back this week. Bills, I don't know. I'm gonna go with the Texans. I'm not super confident about that just because with these two powerhouses, it could really go either way. It just depends on who doesn't particularly show up that night. But I trust the defensive scheming of the coaching staff, and I trust that the Bills, when they need a big play, and they might at the end of this game, they don't really have a home run hitter. Shakir is maybe the most efficient wide receiver in football right now, but he's questionable. And Dalton Kincaid has actually been pretty good. And James Cook has had those flashes, but he's been inconsistent. When they need a home run, it has been difficult for them to hit one, especially against last week we saw the Ravens. So I'm going to go with the Texans.
Dante, I don't know. So if you're
I'll
ready,
go. Um, I'm gonna go Buffalo. And the main reason, well, Joe Mixon coming off injury. I don't know how solid he's going to be. Um, but as I mentioned last week, Buffalo's run defense hasn't been hasn't been extremely good. Um, as we saw Derrick Henry had his way with that defense.
Yeah.
But I don't really trust Houston's defense right now because they needed a last second touchdown to beat the Jags last week. Not last second, I guess. You get what I'm saying. Very, very late touchdown to beat the Jags. And yeah, I think Buffalo is going to bounce back. I expect this to be a very good game. Stroud's going to have a solid one. I think Allen's going to bounce back. But ultimately, I think Buffalo will have their number this game. And yeah, I'm going with them.
I personally wonder if anything will happen with Stephon Diggs, if he will find the end zone and um you know rub it in Buffalo's face, or if he will get shut down by this corner or that corner and he'll get frustrated on the sideline. I think that's something to watch.
Yeah, I totally forgot about that. Didn't even realize.
Interesting dynamic. All right, Adam, break the tie
okay. Y'all have left
or predict
me.
a tie.
An
Go,
interesting
go.
decision. Um, I'm gonna go with the team that I was probably gonna go with unless I was left alone to pick someone else. So I'll go Houston for this one. If Dante had picked Houston, I was gonna go Buffalo, but now that Dante picked Buffalo, I'll go Houston.
Okay.
Just gut feeling once again.
Yeah, I'm cool. I'm cool being the only one. That's all right.
All right. This game is fun. Divisional battle again. A little AFC North football. Ravens, Bengals. I know who I'm going if you guys don't.
Oh, yeah, I do.
I'm not sure, so go right for it.
Dante, you or me first.
You were eager, so you go for it.
Okay. Um, I'll go Baltimore. They have looked much better these last 2 weeks. We had the close win by them in Dallas, but last week, just man, they really went crazy on Sunday Night Football, and they showed that we've had this agenda with the Bengals that we use against them the last few years, where it's like they start off rusty the first 2 games, and then they just come out firing. That looked like the Ravens last week. Last week we were reminded this is what Baltimore's offense can do, and we were reminded we should believe in them. And to me, there's still a few question marks with Cincinnati. Last week's game with Carolina was a little too close for my liking if I'm a Bengals fan, especially because I heard people saying they were going to blow out the Panthers. So, yeah, for that reason, I think Baltimore's going to get over 500 on the road. Cincinnati maybe falling to 1-4.
Yep.
Panic time? I don't know.
Hold on, Luke. I'm about to make my pick, but I'm pulling up something real quick. Okay, so before I make my pick, actually, I'll make my pick first. I'm going Baltimore as my lock of the week for this.
Oh,
And the reason is, let's just look at the defenses Cincinnati has played so far. Patriots, sorry, Luke, only put up 16 points. I mean, only put up 10 points and lost. Chiefs, not a bad defense, nothing insane though. Uh, Commanders, not an insane defense. And then Panthers. Now have to go play a top 10 defense in the league in Baltimore. I mean, and Cincinnati has had, I'll just say, the fourth best defense in the AFC North, which is a tough assessment because the the Steelers, Browns, and Ravens all have, I'd say, top 10 defenses in the league. But I don't know. The the Bengals have really relied on their offense keeping them in games. And I think facing a tough defense like this that could shut them down is going to be a tough test. And the Bengals defense has been just bad, as I mentioned. And Ravens are coming into this one confident. I don't think it's, I think this one is very easy to pick. It's the Ravens, 100%. Lock of the week.
gonna piggyback off Dante real quick, as Luke likes to say. Speaking on that Carolina defense, they played Carolina's defense with Derek Brown out for the season. Shaq Thompson went down with an injury in that game, probably out for the season as well, unfortunately. So definitely played our defense that did not have some key pieces. So
And gave up 24 points. You
right.
know, I mean,
Oh, so we only lost by 10. I didn't even
yeah,
realize.
34-24. Yep.
Okay. Anyways, Luke.
You know what? Whatever. Screw it. I'll go to the Bengals. Nothing stronger than the feeling. Things go the opposite way of how we think they're going to go very often. Um,
I don't think I've been more confident for a game this year than this one.
well, maybe I'm instilling a little bit of doubt. Probably not. But you know what? Let's have a little bit of fun. You and I are tied right now for the lead
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
record. We have to put some distance between us, one way or the other. So, uh, I think that the Bengals know what's at stake. Falling to 1-4, pretty much nobody makes the playoffs from 1-4.
I'd be jumping
Um,
up and down if they lose this game. I cannot win.
you'd
Oh,
be what?
I'd be jumping up and down on my knees crying. Yeah. if the
I
Bengals.
think that we're looking at a Bengals team that always starts slow, and I've said it many times before. Yeah, when it comes to divisional games, you can throw a lot of logic right out the window. It
Boys,
gets
if you don't
weird,
mind, I'm gonna go blow my nose real quick. Keep talking.
especially with the passionate divisions like the AFC North. Like, it's you can throw some logic out the window. And I think that these teams know each other differently to where it's not just this is their defense versus the defenses we played. No offense. I mean, you make a very good point, but there's some different level of familiarity, and so that changes, that alters the kind of plans that you may just put in place for, like, oh, we're the Bengals, we're playing the Cowboys defense this week. We have to plan for them. Now the Ravens, this is what has worked for us in the past. This is what hasn't worked. We know who they've had. How do we game plans for new guys on the other side of the ball? And it's certain things like that where if they can stop the run, if they can clog the secondary, if they can limit the good looks, the open looks down the field that Lamar is going to want to pick apart. I also think that if the Bengals will need their wide receivers to have a game, obviously. Jamar Chase has found the end zone, I think, 3 weeks in a row now. T. Higgins is back. He actually had a decent game last week. Nothing great. I don't want to establish himself too. Don't forget, he's looking to get paid. So one of these weeks, he's going to want to have uh, a good week. And Zach Moss, Chase Brown, they've both been decent. I don't have a lot of reason to pick the Bengals, but I think they always start slow, right? And they're going to turn it on. I don't think the first 4 weeks of the season have been a completely accurate view of what the Bengals are going to finish the year looking like.
Okay, you don't have to solve about Cincinnati anymore. Thank you, Luke.
Okay. Because I was really running out of reasons to pick them. So
All right, let's move on. Starting off with the 4 p.m. slate here. Raiders and Broncos in Denver. Another game I know where I'm picking, and I'm actually kind of confident, but I'll let you guys start off. If I feel like I've started off a few games recently, so
I know where I'm going.
go for it, Dante.
Upset of the week, Denver. Um, I'm going with them for sure. Their defense has played under like under the radar, very good. Um, you know, and divisional game, like Luke just said, is his whole explanation on why divisional games could go either way. Uh, definitely applies here. And in Mile High, I don't think Bo Nix is going to be great because he's really only been decent in one game this season so far. Once again, small sample size, but I think Denver is going to take control early and then just hold on to the end. So yeah, Broncos.
okay. You care if I go, Luke?
Well,
I will say, we deserve a pat on the back for accurately predicting a Raiders sweep last week. So
I mean, it was against the Browns.
yeah, it
true.
was going to be Browns.
Anyways, I'm gonna agree with Dante here. I'm gonna go with Denver. There was one specific thing I was thinking of. If you guys have read up on NFL news in the past day, a specific person, Mr. Devontae Adams, requesting a trade. Things seem a little dysfunctional with that team right now. Who knows how his trade request is going to impact this game, how enthusiastic he's going to be on the field.
Do you think he's a Raider by game time?
Yeah, yeah, I do. I really think,
By when?
Game time.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the deadline is not till November 5th, but I think this thing could drag out close to the deadline. I don't think a trade's going to happen immediately. I really think Vegas is going to have teams do their homework and really, push because, like I said, they want like a second round pick and additional compensation for him. Hey,
Dante, what are you
if
what are you
they
pointing to there?
I'll leave it at that.
Are
um
those Browns logos?
No, Devontae
okay.
Adams is a Steeler, and I will not allow it.
Anyway,
Dante wants Adams to be a Steeler, doesn't he?
Uh, I'll sleep on it. But
he would
yes.
certainly help out.
Oh,
Uh,
dude, GP and Devontae Adams. Oh my God. Yeah.
but anyways, to finish up my point, like Dante said, I don't think Bo Nix is going to have a spectacular game by any means, but if he could beat the Jets last week, I think he can beat the Raiders. So, Luke,
I'm gonna fade you guys again. I think that the Broncos are counting on teams to really like suck against them. The Jets did nothing. Um, who did they beat in the week prior? That was a team. That was a game more like they looked excellent for no good reason. That's not gonna keep up. Um, yeah, here I go again. I don't really have a good reason,
hey, sometimes it's you don't need one.
but I don't like that was my reason. The Broncos are really relying on teams performing badly against them so far, at least. And the Broncos have a pretty low ceiling with the offense. There was that one week, but I think the Raiders defense can hold the Broncos off enough to where the Raiders can scrounge together just enough points to win. It's gonna be. I don't think I'm gonna want to watch this game. I'll put it that way. But I think the Raiders should be able to win this game. We'll see.
Cool.
Okay.
I think they could finally get their rushing attack going, and I think Jacoby Myers could have a big game. He could find the end zone.
I looked at the schedule. These next three games kind of look like easy picks, so we could breeze through them if we want. Cardinals, 49ers. San Fran looked a lot better last week. Arizona, I mean, they look great in week 2, but they've kind of struggled a little bit. Give me the Niners to win at home.
Agreed.
Yeah, I agree too. Unfortunately, I can't keep picking the Cardinals against my better judgment. Although I really thought that 1-3 seems disappointing for them because Kyler looked great for the first 2 weeks of the season, and Marvin Harrison Jr. has found the end zone 3 games in a row, and James Conner is reliable. But Trey McBride coming off an injury, and that defense hasn't looked very good. This should be a pretty easy win for San Francisco.
They still got to play Carolina, and they'll get their wins. Anyways, another one here, Giants in Seattle. I mean, San Francisco. No, not San Francisco. I'm thinking baseball here because it's a postseason. New York Giants looked a little better last week, but I mean, Seattle just the way better team here. Seahawks for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Giants aren't as much of a lost cause as people think they might be, but they're still, I heard a good analysis that Daniel Jones actually isn't like completely awful, but he leaves a lot to be desired. He leaves a lot on the table. He leaves a lot of points on the field that should be going up to the scoreboard, and the Seahawks don't have that problem. Kenneth Walker is back. Deacon Metcalf has been great. JSN has been pretty good. Geno Smith has looked sharp. Even in the loss against Detroit, they stuck with him to the very end. So as long as the defense can keep the Giants out of the end zone at least more than once, it should be a pretty easy one.
Yeah, I'll go Seahawks here, especially with Malik Neighbors. I would assume he's out for this game.
I think he is out this game.
Yeah. And we all know the Giants really have no playmakers outside of Malik Neighbors, and I expect a bad game from Daniel Jones. Sorry, Danny Dimes, but it's going to be a rough one. Seattle for sure.
All right, and then our final 4 p.m. game. Again, feel like kind of a no-brainer. The Rams are so banged up. Almost won last week, but I mean, Green Bay got Jordan Love back. They looked a lot better last week, even though they lost. So I think the Packers get a win in this one.
I agree.
Yeah, Jordan Love with the interesting performance in the tunnel before the game. He walked in with a Brett Favre jersey on and honored him by throwing 4 touchdowns and 3 picks. It doesn't get much more Brett Favre than that, but I think they do get a real quality win this week.
Nice.
All right, Dante, take it away.
Yeah. Cowboys Steelers in prime time Sunday Night Football at the Yak at Acrisure Stadium. The Yak.
What we're calling it now?
That's what I call it. I don't know.
I like that.
Dallas coming off a win against New York, the Giants. But they always beat the Giants. There's really no surprise here. Pittsburgh coming off a defensive disaster class. I don't know what happened, but I'm not too worried. We needed, I think we needed that to happen. Couldn't let our head get too big. I think Steelers defense is going to come in here. They're going to play their brand of football, and they're going to play well. But what I really was impressed with last week was our drive and will and overall performance offensively. Being down 17 nothing at half. That was 17-3 maybe 17 nothing. I don't know whenever we got that field goal. But either way, being down 17 nothing at one point and then coming back and making it a ball game with a chance to tie it up at the end or potentially win it at the end, scoring on 3 straight drives. Haven't done that since 2021. Pretty insane. That's Ben Roethlisberger era. Kenny Pickett never did that. No surprise. But yeah, Justin
He
Fields.
rarely scored in three straight. Sorry to cut you off. He rarely scored in three straight games.
Yeah, truly. He threw 6 touchdown passes in a season. Justin Fields has six total touchdowns right now. And so, yeah, Fields looks great. I am so stoked that he's my quarterback. It's all coming together. Um, on on Dallas's side, you have a couple guys out. You got Brandon Cooks just came out that he won't be playing. Not a huge role in that offense, but a guy that the Steelers would let run wild on him because we all know that does happen in Steeler games. Um, DeMarcus Lawrence out for this week, and Micah Parsons likely out for this week. So Steelers catching a break offensively, but also Pittsburgh's offensive line is banged up. However, I believe Isaac Seumalo is coming back in this game. But James Daniels, Troy Fautanu out for the year, which does suck. Um, but I think the Steelers are going to get a win here. They're going to bounce back against a banged up Dallas team. We're going to run the ball well, and I expect another solid game from Fields. And if we get the pass rush going on Dak, make him uncomfortable, which is what we do so well, um, I think Pittsburgh wins.
What do you think, Adam?
I agree with Dante. I think the Steelers are going to get a win here. This seems like the type of game the Steelers win, going up against a great team like the Cowboys, primetime game. It seems like, the type of game that they will get the job done. And coming off last week, they're upset, I imagine, after a close, rough loss in Indianapolis, a game where Justin Fields played as well as he did. Did he fumble once, I believe?
He fumbled
Yeah,
once.
but he might have been down either way.
Well, minus that, he played a very good game. I'm sure they're upset to have lost that, and they want to come out and rebound with a nice win on Sunday night. So I don't really have much reasoning, like Luke said, but I just think this is the kind of game the Steelers go out there and they get the job done.
If this was in Dallas, I'd be much more hesitant. I may even pick the Cowboys if it was in Dallas, but because they are just so good at home. But you know,
Well, it's here. It's in the act.
it's in the act. It's on the Three Rivers, baby. Let's go.
Luke,
I see compelling reasons to pick neither team, but I honestly, but I don't think the Steelers would right now go out and put out a stinker at home on prime time. I will go with the Steelers as well,
Cool.
but they have a shot to impress me, and they have the points are on the board. It was a good week last week for Justin Fields, but it was all a little untimely. I would like to still see more. I would still like to see some down the field shots. I would still like to see some more over the middle of the field targets. I would still like to see. I really need to see a better game on the ground for the Steelers. We know what Najee Harris is right now, but you still want him to be a little bit better, I think. And I don't understand why Jalen Warren has disappeared. Maybe you could provide some insight into that. But Cordell Patterson has been okay in his limited touches. Um, I think you still need to see a little bit more of something. It'll depend on, honestly, it might depend on how much they call the holding on TJ Watt. That guy was getting held on every single snap. It was never called. They need to disrupt this game a few times. And I think that Mike Tomlin is a better coach than, I think that this could be problematic for the Cowboys losing another game like this when they lost their first two games at home, and they're expecting to be able to win these shootouts. Might not be a shootout, but their offense is supposed to be enough to overcome some defenses like this. So it's gonna take a hard fought game, but I am gonna go with the Steelers.
Yeah, I'll elaborate on what you said about Jalen Warren. He has been battling injury, though,
Okay.
so I would assume that's why he's getting limited snaps. But I expect his carry count to pick up. But I'll say one more thing about the Steelers that I forgot to mention while making my pick. A lot of the mistakes we made seem easily fixable. One of them, George Pickens fumbling at the goal line. That's coaching. That's one thing you could fix. The Zach Frazier snap at the end of the game, fixable. Um, and also, I was glazing Joe Flacco earlier on in the episode. Um, Completely different quarterback to game plan for. So that made it tough for us, even if it's 39-year-old Joe Flacco. But
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
I think the Steelers can recover. I don't think it's the end of the world. We're 3-1, knock on wood. I think things should be just fine. I'm not going to overly confident, but I do think we should take care of business here. But yeah,
There was also that Minka unnecessary roughness, which could have gone either
totally.
way, and that was a free first down, and they scored on that drive, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, and that was on a third down. So that completely
Yeah.
flips the script. Um,
So, like you said, it's certain things that can go either way. They can change the outcome of games. So as I was saying, I think the Steelers need to play clean and they need to play really hard. They need to, um, they need to put a cap on. They need to put a limit on what the Cowboys can do. They can't get behind,
sure. Yeah.
or they need a big second half,
Which we did have, but
which
and
you did have. But
nothing.
like, but I mean, like a shutout of a second half.
Totally. Which, sorry, I keep rambling on against it about this game, but defense kind of stepped up in the second half. We were, making plays, but it seemed like too little, too late. You can't give up that many points in the first half and expect to come back. But we almost did, and that gives me hope for the future. So, yeah, next game.
All right, finishing off with Monday Night Football. Saints and Chiefs. Saints have looked extremely different these last two games than they did in the first 2 weeks of the season, and they have run into what many call an unstoppable force with the undefeated Kansas City Chiefs in Arrowhead. To me, that is too tough of an environment and too tough of an opponent to justify picking the Saints to go back over 500. I think the Chiefs move to 5.
Yeah, I agree. Chiefs.
So do I.
Cool. That was
Just move on. Easy.
and that'll do it.
Okay.
Anything
I
else?
mean, the Saints that could be the one weird game the Chiefs lose. I will give the Saints credit for those first 2 weeks. They weren't nothing. They haven't looked that dominant since. That's one way of saying it. But that's still in there somewhere. And Alvin Kamara is pretty undeniable. So, Rasheed Rice now out, having to rely on Travis Kelce a little more. We'll see.
Dante, what is our bold prediction this week?
Jordan Love throws for 4 touchdowns again. That's my bold prediction.
Luke, you got anything prepared?
Yeah, I do. But I also want to think. I didn't even pick a lock of the week, did I? I will make it, unfortunately.
You said Washington.
Oh, that's right. I did. Never mind.
What were you
gonna
going to say then?
Upset? I was gonna say, fine, the Cardinals will lose.
You said your lock
49ers.
will be Washington and your upset will be Carolina.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
You
Yeah,
you
I
got
do
it
have
out
to
of the
start
way
upset.
pretty early on, so
That's right. That's right. So last week I went pretty much exactly 500 with stardom sit I said start Kyler Murray versus Washington. I was on the wrong end of that one. He only had 10 points. But I said sit Bo Nix because I was like, please, I'm begging you, just don't buy into what happened the week before. And so he put up like absolutely nothing. But I also told you to pick up Sam Darnold, and I hope you did because he's still a top 5 quarterback in fantasy. He had 20 points. Uh, I crapped the bed for running backs, but I redeemed myself for wide receivers, but you have to hear this. I said start Devon A-Chain. He played awful. I said sit Jonathan Taylor. I think the Steelers defense will stop. They did the opposite, pretty much. He had like 20 points. And I said pick up Braylon Allen, the Jets backup, because he's a rookie. He had like 6 points, so I'll consider that a loss, a miss. With these waiver wire things, like if they don't score great the first week, it still doesn't mean it wasn't worth picking them up. Wide receiver though, I said start Mike Evans. He had a quiet week 3, but I thought he would find the end zone, and he did. 24 points. That was a good decision. I said sit Tyreek Hill, kind of bold there too, and he had like 8 points, so that was a good decision. And I said pick up Deontay Johnson. I said I wasn't sure if the second week of Andy Dalton would be as flashy as the first, but it was for him. He had 22 points again this week. And for tight end, we're also going to kind of ignore the fact that I said start Mike Gesicki. I don't know what possessed me, but he had 0.1 points, so he might have had a catch for no yards. Or not even. He might have had like 1 rushing yard, I guess that would be.
Oh my God.
Or he had a catch for -9 yards. I guess that would be. Who knows? I'm not even going to look. And of course, the one week I tell you, finally, you can sit Travis Kelce. You can be released of that burden of having to watch him score nothing every week. He had like 16 points. So I don't know what I'm supposed to do at this point. And I told you to pick up I told you to pick up Cole Kmet, who had like 7 points. So as far as tight ends are considered this year, that I think that's fine.
Mike Gesicki had
Here's like
-9 yards.
he had what?
1 reception for -9 yards.
1 reception for -9 yards. That is what it was. Oh my goodness.
That's
That's
crazy.
just like a bit. I can't believe that. The one week in the Bengals offense looked good too. Maybe that's why. It's like they finally said, no, you're getting nothing this week. Maybe that's why.
Well,
This week I am more confident though, because I had more time to look at it. Well, I
oh,
made more time to look.
you haven't named your choices yet, obviously. Go ahead.
No, that was last week. I was recapping. I'm going to take a few layups this week, but I'm going to match it with some bold predictions like I did last week with Tyreek Hill. So kind of a layup, start Jaden Daniels. I'm just going to say this because some people might be wondering, 2 weeks of this dominance, maybe 3. Do I really buy in yet? I can tell he's a special quarterback, but is he going to continue to be reliable in fantasy? Is he going to be a consistent starter? And yeah, he is going to be against Cleveland. I would definitely start him. They've been allowing. No, the Cleveland has been tough on quarterbacks in fantasy, but you can trust Jaden Daniels, I think. I actually said sit Justin Fields this week. I understand he was the number 1 quarterback in fantasy last week, and I understand you guys are now glaring at me because you're both wearing Justin Fields Steelers jerseys. But sit him in fantasy this week. I'm sorry. I have my doubts that he'll be able to replicate that, even if the Steelers win, and they very well might. And for waiver wire, pick up Baker Mayfield, who I still don't understand is only averaging like 75% of leagues. And people have been dropping him. Like 3% of leagues have been dropping him. So go pick him up. He is still as reliable as he was. He's averaging 22 points. Running backs, I said start Jerome Ford of the Cleveland Browns against Washington. As dominant as Washington has been, they've not been as unstoppable of a force on defense. And Nick Chubb's practice window just opened up today. Jerome Ford is going to want to have some good games, and he has been good. He's been reliable before Nick Chubb gets back, so he doesn't lose all of his touches. And I'm telling you right now, as a Patriots fan, to sit Ramondre Stevenson this week against Miami. I think we're going to win this week. I don't think he's going to be a part of it. The rumor is, and this rumor is real, it was confirmed, that he is going to be benched this week in favor of Antonio Gibson. You might be saying, why? Ramondre Stevenson, week 1, fumble. Week 2, fumble. Week 3, fumble. Week 4, fumble. And he has lost 2 of those fumbles. It's inexcusable. And we knew this was a possibility. Heading into week 4, if he fumbled again, he might have been taken off the field. And in a large part, he was. So stay away from him for now, even though I don't hate him down the rest of the stretch. And waiver wire pickup, just go get Nick Chubb. Throw him on your IR. Drop the worst person on your bench. He's only rostered in like 75% of leagues. Bide your time, 2 or 3 more weeks. And when you have him, I know that everybody else in your league is going to go looking for him on the waiver wire. And they're going to say, dang, he picked him up already. And they're going to be kicking themselves for not doing the same thing. Wide receivers. Start Terry McLaurin versus Cleveland. Same logic as Jaden Daniels. He's been good. It's a bit of a layup, but he hasn't always been a super reliable fantasy option. But Cleveland isn't the team that people thought they were, at least not on the offense. I know we're talking about defense, but it's been reliable. It's Daniel's favorite target. Just start Terry McLaurin. Don't think about it. And I'm going to tell you once again, I'm going to take a victory lap. Sit Tyreek Hill. Guess what? He has nightmares about Christian Gonzalez. Even more nightmares than he has about getting pulled over again. He has more nightmares about Christian Gonzalez. I will never be kind to Tyreek Hill. I will never find a good reason to treat that guy any better than how he treats other people. So sit him again. He only had like 8 points last week. Our defense is, questionable right now, but it's supposed to be one of the best. And against Snoop Huntley this week with the bad scheming he's been handed, I think we should be fine. So sit Tyreek Hill again. And waiver wire pickup Jacoby Myers. You guys know why. Devontae Adams, trade request. Go get him right now before anybody else gets him. He's only rostered in like 65% of leagues. So just go do that. And he's been fine. He's been averaging like 12 points. And finally, tight ends. I will switch my course completely this week and tell you to start Travis Kelce. I wouldn't be doing this probably if Rashee Rice didn't get hurt, but this is the world we live in. And against the Saints, if the Chiefs are going to want to comfortably win this game, they're going to need to target Travis Kelce. I would sit Trey McBride of the Cardinals. I like him as a fantasy option. I liked him going into this year, but he's coming off of a practice injury. He's going to play probably, but against the 49ers defense would be enough reason not to start him if he wasn't already banged up. And waiver wire pick up to end the episode, Tucker Kraft of the Green Bay Packers, who saw a massive uptick in targets last game from like 3, 2, and 3 through the first 3 weeks to 9 with Jordan Love back as a sitting caller. And he averages 7.8, which is actually pretty decent for tight ends already, and he's rostered about half the leagues. By the way, I go off ESPN leagues. He's rostered about half the leagues, and that's plus like 40%. So go get him before it becomes mainstream. That's what I have for you this week. Hopefully I can turn my record around. Right now I am 18-18 with these picks in the way that I consider it. So, that just means if you hear something I say, it's completely up to you whether or not to trust me or not, because half the time I'm right, but half the time I tell you to sit Jonathan Taylor and he finds the end zone in the first quarter against the Steelers. And I'm like, well, crap. Who else did I say? So, do with that information what you will.
All right.
And there's
Two
the
more
episode.
things I want to say before we go. Speaking of fantasy, I believe I told Dante on Sunday that in my Yahoo League, I dropped Michael Pittman Jr. for George Pickens. And Dante said, watch Pittman have his best game. And I'm pretty sure he did, unfortunately.
Yeah, 5 for like 113.
Yeah.
GP had a good one too. He actually had more yards than Pittman, but anyway.
And then last thing I want to say that I forgot to mention before the episode started, buys start this week. So fantasy football players, keep that in mind with your team. The 4 teams on bye this week are the Detroit Lions, Philadelphia Eagles, Los Angeles Chargers, and Tennessee Titans. So 14 instead of 16 games this week. And that does it.
Yeah, week five bye week. That must suck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think ours is like week.
Eagles, I think Lions. That might be it. One or two
I
more.
said Eagles, Lions, Chargers, Titans.
That's horrible.
Yep.
We got lucky. Ours is like week 9, which is like right in the middle. Which
Panthers is I think week 11.
It's not bad.
Patriots, no idea.
Have your schedule up on the wall over here, Luke. Week 14.
Ooh.
Oh. That's like also kind of bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. We are your guys, Adam,
Dante.
And Luke.
and we'll catch y'all next week. Thank you for watching. Love y'all. See you soon.